you get bigger, when you do that $5 million company, that's when it gets really difficult because you have to rewrite processes. You have to deal with the intricacies of a large business not being your business. But when it's a smaller business, sub $500,000, and it's 1-2 guys, it's really a phone number. And
welcome to the Lead In Podcast, where we dive deep into genuine stories of leaders who've seized control of their journey. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Hub, your growth partner for the trades. And now, let me kick it over to our guy, Austin Linney.
We got him back for episode 2, guys. We're going to focus. I mean, honestly, brother, so when did you buy your first company? How long ago?
June of 22.
I mean, we're literally probably 6 months
2 years
apart,
later.
right in the middle of it. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I'm a year and a half. So
I was going to
about
say,
a year
you
and
bought
7.
yours shortly after.
Yeah, so we're in it, just like you are, and there's a disclaimer on the front of this podcast. This business and this type of business will take your soul out of your body and stand it in front of you, and you have to make it a choice. And I'm not saying that to scare people. I'm telling you that I have 49 employees now. They don't give a fuck what your emotions are. They don't care what's going on.
It's true.
It doesn't matter, right? Here's what's crazy. This is the biggest revelation to me. And I want to ask you the same question because it changed my life when I realized this. This is not startup energy when you buy an existing business. Startup energy is rah, rah, give us the pep talk, loud, abrasive, chaos. No. This is legacy energy. It's calm. It's a lot of James Bond stuff in the back doors that nobody sees to save the business. It's all this stuff, and then slowly you gain their trust. Then you start coaching and you're bringing. But I don't think people realize how long it takes to gain people's trust, especially in a HVAC plumbing trade business.
Yeah, I've ran startups, as you heard on the last episode, or somewhat startups. It's different. It's completely different. And yes, you go into these things with, revenue on the back end, and you go in with cash flow, hopefully. But at the same time, you also go in with we've burned the ships, PGs, and my houses are on the line, and I don't, this issue's brand new to me, and I have to make $10,000 before next month, or otherwise the bank comes knocking. It's very cutthroat. And then the home services industry in general is very cutthroat. There are a lot of players, and they're very sophisticated. This idea of these old crotchety man who's been doing this for 40 years and does everything on paper still. Yeah, they exist, but they're hustlers. I mean, they are very good and they know their stuff. And they're not to be what's the word I'm looking for? They're not to be looked down upon. They're pretty good guys. So coming into this with very little experience is a game changer. You gotta be quick on your feet. You gotta be quick to learn and really head down and hustle.
So I'm going to tell you my number one rule for change management I've learned, and then I want to hear your number one rule. So my number one rule is you don't bring any half-baked ideas to your team. You see him laugh.
Yeah, I'm laughing because we've all made these mistakes.
Let me back up the back half of this rule. If you say it and it's to the team, no matter what it costs you, you better follow through.
Yeah, that's accurate. Very, very accurate. I think my number one rule for change management is, no half-baked ideas is a really, really good one, because they're looking to you for leadership on this change management. And if you don't know, they don't know. And if you haven't put it down on paper, you haven't created the SOPs, But let me think of a different one. Change management is making sure that the change comes from you as well. That's what I found. I mean, in my company is if I'm going to implement a change, they need to hear it from me and they need to hear the why behind it. Because a lot of times change management includes a lot of extra work, maybe some red tape. So why? Why do we have to take pictures of every condenser coil we work on? Why? That sounds like a nightmare. Why are we going to Service Titan, which causes me a ton more work to do? And then the explanation on the back end is, well, when we take all these pictures, I can actually upload them and go through them and find old units and then work on those to get maintenances so that you guys can flip more units in the off season. Or we're going to Service Titan so that we can get better audience. We can look at your numbers better. We're able to kind of use those numbers to make the business better and to grow. I know it's hard now, but that's the reasoning. And as long as you have the reasoning and you have all your ducks in a row, like you said, you don't come in half-baked, it tends to help. But it wasn't always that way. I mean, one of the things that you said it hits home to me early on in this podcast was when I didn't have a lot of that legacy issue that you had in the beginning because all of my employees quit day one. So,
Hey,
yeah,
so listen, I have a rule. You know my life. You know I've had some
yeah,
things happen, right?
yeah.
You're aware. So I had this revelation that when you hit rock bottom, it's actually a blessing in disguise because you get to leave behind what you didn't want anyway.
And so that is, I mean, there's no truer words, honestly. No, that is the key for anyone listening out there. Like everyone talks about how hard. I have some groups that we do masterminds with, that I'm in with for shout out Rand. And there's some guys in there who've bought HVAC companies in Tennessee, in Pennsylvania, in these areas, and they have such a hard time with that change management. Well, the old owner used to do this. Well, the old owner used to do that. Well, the old owner, and I was like, I don't have this issue. Like I overpaid and everyone quit. So,
Yeah.
these are all my employees that all of them I've hired. There's not a single legacy employee at my company. So we hit rock bottom. I ran calls. I got to learn the ins and outs of HVAC technician. So I was a tech. I was a dispatcher. I was a CSR. I know everything that it takes to do every single one of the positions in my company. And because of that,
See,
I'd like to say I'm better for it. I mean, it really
so great.
sucked.
No, I know it's look, every part of that. I have a client right now who I coach for a year who's helping out working at an HVAC company, and people have left and she has to do this job and she's doing like 6 different jobs, and I was like, I actually think it's a great thing.
Yeah. I mean, I get a crack up out of it. So every once in a while, I'll get a message from someone who doesn't know me on Twitter with a lot of hatred in their hearts, saying, "Oh, this guy just doesn't know anything about HVAC, blah blah blah." And I'm like, you guys, you don't know my story. You don't know how long I would have to wake up at 4 a.m., do all my paperwork, do all of the LSA, PPC, because I was doing it all in house, and post to Facebook. Everything was done by me at 4 a.m. Then I'd hang out with my kids, which was the awesome part, right? If you listen to the last episode, that's what I wanted. I'd have breakfast with my family. I'd go to work, do 8 to 10 hours. I'd come back, have dinner with my family, and then I would do all my paperwork for the night, like send out invoices, send out receipts, answer emails, because once again, everyone left. But once we started building, I was able to build the right systems in a way that I understood and that I knew the techs and the employees would understand because they're in the position now. So it was for the better in the long run, but dang if it wasn't hard during that time period.
What I'm about to say is I hope my producer doesn't clip it out so I get yelled at on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I know you and I know what you stand for, and don't ever share this with your wife either. There's a lot of talk around personal guarantees and whether it's good or not. Okay. In my case, knowing you and what happened to you and all your employees leaving, I don't think you would have hung around if it wasn't for the personal guarantee. And so I wonder if 20 years from now, maybe you would have, but maybe the want to or the whatever wouldn't have been the
Yeah.
same. And so I wonder if it was actually, 20 years from now when we zoom out and you're doing 50 million, 100 million, if it wasn't the reason that you're still here killing it.
So that isn't an unfair assessment at all. I'm not, I'm the first to admit I have shiny object syndrome. I love business. I love talking about business. And so 100%. The other side to it, though, is hear me out on this one, is I promised myself getting into HVAC that I'm not getting out until, like, this is third time the charm. So I told you I was in Bitcoin.
Yep.
I was in Bitcoin really early. Didn't go all in, like half in and then out to something else.
Yeah.
That something else was real estate. I went half in. I bought a few houses, single family, couple duplexes, then got out. And if I would have stayed in, once again, we wouldn't be talking right now. Let's just say that. I bully myself. I have a bunch of spreadsheets on my old computers that I keep and I send to my new computers of like my my Bitcoin projections of making 6 Bitcoin a week and going, that's not enough. And now looking at it, it's like, oh, you would have been making hundreds of thousands of dollars per week for years and then finally exit. Same with real estate. Hey, I have some 20-plex in Gilbert for $1 million that you could go buy. Oh, but I don't really want to buy a 20-plex in Gilbert, Arizona. And then Gilbert, Arizona blows
Probably
up.
worth like 7 right now.
Yeah. It's worth like 10 million now, something ridiculous. And I was going to buy it like a 16
My buddy's
cap
like
or
the
an
king
18
of Gilbert
cap.
real estate.
Yeah.
So I'm very aware.
Yeah, it used to be 16 caps out there, and now they're like in the height, it was like 2 or 3. So I missed that boat. And then, so I said, never again. When I go in on HVAC, I'm not going
I'm all
out
in.
until it's there. So yes and no. Yes, in that is my personality. No, in that I told myself and promised myself this was the last time. Like, this is third time's the charm. I know there's something here. Buy up as many HVAC companies as you can, grow as fast as you can, and then at some point exit at a point that's going to be the end, or at least financially free. Financially, what do they say? Whatever the term is, not having to work for 10 plus years.
So I have you met Chris Williamson before, System 6?
No.
Have you met him? Okay, so he's around on Twitter, but long story short, we met at a SMB event in Dallas where he was like, oh, you're going to play golf? And he just showed up with me and my buddies, had never met anybody, and we played for like 6 hours, 18 holes with money on the line. Chris was he was in it to win it, man. I mean, he was like, I think they were going like wedding dress shopping, and he kept telling her like, give me another couple minutes. We're still tied, And like, I was like, oh my God, I love this guy. I want him to be our accountant. So, but the long and short of it is, every time I get with him, every time I get with my other buddies who own multiple businesses, we have the same conversation. And the conversation is this: why do you need a scale? It's the same thing. But these are people that are driven. And Chris, by the way, is looking for other companies and buying them. Me as well. You bought more companies. So I think that I revert back to what my mentor told me. The same guy in Gilbert a long time ago. He had 9 companies. He made $500,000 net profit a month. He said, Austin, I've retired on 1,000 acres 3 different times. He goes, I lasted 3 months, 6 months, and 4 months. He goes, I think that us driven entrepreneurs live in both worlds.
Yeah. And so I know that. I think what I mean though by that is I would go into something a little bit different in terms of just fun, right?
Okay.
It's so if you can kind of see my progression, it was like facilities, Bitcoin, winery. I'd love to restart my winery again, for example. So like, it's not me retiring to never work again. It's me retiring to a point where I never have to financially worry about my hobbies again, which my
Yeah.
hobby is running and starting businesses that I
Yeah.
find interesting.
Yeah.
And so if the winery, I think when I shut down the winery, it ended up being a net zero loss just because everything went back into the business after I paid myself off the initial investment, and it was just time. But like, I'd love to do that here in Tennessee again and compete and have a giant venue and do that. That being said, once again, I have shiny object syndrome, and I completely know that I'm saying this, and I need to be focused on HVAC. So, like,
Okay, so we're gonna talk HVAC for a minute.
yeah,
Okay, so I find, at least me, I find the sellers that I speak to that we're thinking about. We have a lot of older sellers in our area,
mhm.
and it's very interesting. I think a lot of searchers, but I think also a lot of people looking to buy, have the wrong context of why this person wants to get out of the business. And what I found is they're not upset with the money. They're not upset with the trade. They don't want to stay up with the technology and the regulations that is coming down the pipe or has been coming. So when you're approaching these sellers, and you've bought how many companies now?
I think we just closed on the plumbing one was the 5th.
Well, I really hope you know how many companies you closed on, but
So the reason I say kind of is because what you're saying is true. That from my experience, as well as it sounds like yours, is they're just not, they don't want to keep up with the changing world, and they're having a hard time keeping up with marketing and SEO and all these games that you have
so
to
what
play.
that means is,
Yeah,
it doesn't
go
mean
for
it's
it.
a bad business.
No.
So that's what I'm trying to give everybody hope that's looking.
Yeah. On the other end, though, what my kind of area that I buy from is what I call the owner's hell zone. And
Okay.
so they're usually sub $1 million businesses. Most of the time, they're sub $500,000 businesses. They're in that $300,000-$400,000 range. They're the only ones working. They have a decent amount of work when it's the busy season in HVAC, and then in the off season they don't. But they still have to compete to gain customers and all that kind of stuff, and they're going up against these $100 million corporations, and they don't want to do advertising. But even if they do want to do advertising, they really don't have the money to spend. They don't have, Google's going to require you $2,000 for its algorithm to work properly or whatever, a month. They don't have $2,000 a month to spend because, right, it's just them. They have $200,000-$300,000 on the books. They're netting maybe 30% at $100,000 a year. It's a comfortable lifestyle, but if they try to grow or scale, it becomes uncomfortable really quickly. You hire one person, there goes half of your net. Hopefully, and then not only there goes half your net, you also need to go ahead and, start marketing. Well, there goes the other half of your net. And so you find this really hard to scale issue kind of in the lower area. And after somebody's been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, they're done. They just want to go and work as a parts person, or they want to be like a specialty tech for one of the train companies or something. And so I come in, buy the book, buy their truck, buy their tools. If they have one employee, we'll generally hire them. We have before. And so when I say like, it's about 5, because some of them are just like single guy operations. And, do you really count them as a business, or are you just buying their phone number?
I don't want to know. Don't tell if you don't want to give it away. But how do you value it, and what are you typically paying for something like that? You don't have to say it, because I'll tell you what happened to us. I don't mind sharing.
So after my first one, so that was essentially the business I bought had 3 employees, and I told you everybody quit and that whole fun thing. So I paid way too much. I learned my lesson, and now it's generally like 0.5 of net. So it's really low, just
Really low.
because once again, all you're buying is a phone number.
That's for phone number, Google, customer list.
So it's generally, like I said, my sweet spot's around 25 to 50,000.
Okay.
And we find that generates $500,000, give or take, once we grab a hold of their customer list.
Can I tell you my deal I got?
Yeah.
So there's like late last year, there was a rumor that a business had closed, but we live in a rural area, so you think you know, but you don't know. And then I couldn't find the owner, like, to save my life. And one day my sales guy goes, why would somebody be selling all this HVAC equipment? This doesn't make sense. This has to be a company. And it was on Facebook Marketplace. And I was like, I guarantee you that's them. It's in the location. And so I said, give me his number. So I call him and I said, hey, I'll be out there tomorrow. He's like, fine, you won't have cell service for the last 20 minutes, but we're here. And so I drive out to their camp and I walk up and the wife goes, are you here to buy all this shit? Because I want it out of this garage so I can go RVing. And I was like, well, we're working on that. So I go look at all of his stuff, and it's stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's worth anything, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there, tools and parts and copper and all that stuff. So they go, we need to have this for it. And I go, yeah, I'm not going to pay that. I was like, because I'm going to come get it in one day. It's going to be gone. You're not going to have to haggle with me. It's gone. So I said, but we could talk about the price. Do you happen to have the, what are you going to do with the Google? What are you going to do with the phone number?
Yeah.
Do you have a customer list? And she goes, well, we're not going to do anything with it. We were just going to throw it away. And so I said, okay. I said, I'll take all that. She goes, fine. You got to pay, this much extra. So what this much extra was, I got to pay an extra $1,000. So I picked it up, 10-year customer list, phone number, everything, all the tools. I picked it up for $9,000.
So your deal is better than my best deal by $4,000.
But just hold on.
Yeah.
So she gives us a customer list. There's like some doubles in there. So we got I would say 1,215 customers. Okay. So phone number, we got 30 5-star Google reviews also. We put up 3 small billboards that cost us $45 a month in the area saying we partnered with this company. They bought it, blah, blah, blah. We sent out a direct mail campaign right off the bat. We got 48 calls in 2 weeks off the direct mail campaign. But the day after I bought it, the woman called me and she said, Austin, you should call this lady. We do a lot of work for the state and it would be good. And I said, ma'am, I appreciate that. I don't do work for the state. And she goes, Austin, am I older than you? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, well, then maybe you should listen to me. And I was like, yes, ma'am. You're right.
That's
so
funny.
I called this lady. So since that day, in 7 months, we've done 157 projects for the state.
Oh my God.
We've done 500. We did 500,000 in revenue in 12 months off that.
That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So I think no matter what goes on for the rest of my life, that'll be my forever deal.
Mine's similar. So my best deal was off Facebook as well. I got a call out of the blue off of my Facebook marketing that said, is this still owned by the old owner? I said, no, it's the new owner, but we're still in the area. We're still operating. Well, I got a buddy and he's leaving the area and we need somebody to send, because he lives way up an hour away. We need somebody to send these calls to and we don't want to run them. I said, yeah, sure. By the way, what's that guy doing with his business? And he said, I don't know. Here's his number. So I texted him. I said, hey, man, what are you doing? He said, I'm just shutting down. I mean, I'm moving to Maine. I don't want to deal with it anymore. I mean, and I asked him how much you want for it. And he goes, 12,000. And I go, okay. I can work with 12,000. And then from that, I say, but I don't know how good your customer list is. So can we do a revenue share agreement? We'll do half up front, 6,000. Yep. And then you get 10% of the up into the next 6,000. So I bought that business for 6,000. Cash 6,000, revenue share. We paid him out in 2 months. Same thing. Started calling, emailing, direct mail. Got a ton of business. Picked up a very large private property management group. They had 280 houses in Nashville. We ran all of their work for them. And I don't think we did $500,000, but I think we did about 200,000 in the first year with them, which was amazing.
It's systematically changed the way I view buying businesses now.
Yeah.
And it's not because at the time we were also in the talks to purchase another business, similar, with more years, probably more customer base, but he wanted $500,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. And so I was like, you don't know that I'm not going to pay that. And so it made me rethink a lot of stuff when it came down to just looking. And so the work that you're doing, the businesses that you're purchasing, that is hard, Jack. It's not easy. Why? Well,
That's
yeah, why have you
that's
gone down that path?
well, so I found that that's so I when you get bigger, when you do that $5 million company, that's when it gets really difficult because you have to rewrite processes. You have to deal with the intricacies of a large business not being your business. But when it's a smaller business, sub half a million, and it's one, two guys, it's really a phone number. And we do really well. One of the things we do really well is outbounding, contacting our customers, giving great service. And so that management and that change management process of getting old customers over to our new customers, I mean, we model in a 50% attrition rate, but most of the time we'll do 80-ish or
Okay.
20% attrition. We keep 80% of the customer base. And so we found that customers are sticky to a phone number a little bit more so than I think people realize. And so it's a very easy transition. It's very cheap to get those businesses, and they tend to be more creative with how they can actually do that. So we'll do it's all seller financing, which is really nice, or just off the cash flow, off your, we just pay them cash and they're good to go. But it's such a small amount that it doesn't hurt. There's no loans, there's no debt. It's just really simple. And so we'll continue to do that. I mean, if a great, really big business comes along, then wonderful. But we've been doing 100% year over year growth with this model. And so we're enjoying it. Like I said, it's not hard in terms of kind of, I should say it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And simple in business is always a win in my book. People overcomplicate things a lot, and that's where large misses take place. And you didn't get this account switched over and you missed $100,000 here or something, and those are the kind of things that sink the ship. Not just porting in a phone number and letting them know that there are customers now. I am the captain now, is what we say around the office from the old movie, or the was it Captain? I'm watching this live, but have your producers cut this part. But whatever the movie is that they go, I'm the captain now. We say it a lot around
No,
here.
we're gonna have him put in a captain's hat on your whole
I
thing.
appreciate it. Right on the shiny baldness, please.
So you you have a podcast that has a name. You get to co-host with a guy who's doing 25, 30 million a year. You get to bring on great guests. You've been doing that for a couple months. My question is, if you were to zoom out, and what would you say your top 1 to 2 learning lessons from those episodes, and just kind of learning from other entrepreneurs have you taken, and also in your own journey, that you can impart on any business owners that are listening?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the one thing that any HVAC, plumbing, electrical, even small business owner could take away from any podcast is capacity modeling is such a huge ordeal as you scale, that I don't think people understand the repercussions of not doing it. So for example, we used to run, when we were smaller, we used to run techs who were also installers. And that's great, right? You can kill two birds with one stone. Hey, they don't have work tomorrow. Or, you pick up big commercial projects that don't pay as much because, hey, I want to make sure that my techs have work tomorrow. But at the end of the day, what you end up doing is you end up crutching yourself. You pick up a crutch and you say, hey, I'm not worried about doing the right thing. I'm just worried about filling up the schedule. And you shoot yourself in the foot tomorrow to fill up your schedule today. So when you have a tech that does both, for example, he's not out forcing us to give him leads and service jobs, which will then result in flips, which will then, fill up an installer schedule. And instead, we're sending him to go do installs and saving, whatever supposed money we're trying to save there. And now we don't have anybody running service. So now we don't fill up 2 days in a row for 2 days from now. So capacity is the name of the game, is understanding like, hey, you do one thing very well, and it's on you as the owner to fill up that schedule and then run the model correctly. Don't Don't go off onto shiny object syndrome in commercial work or new construction work just to fill up the schedule. You need to focus on doing what you're actually supposed to be doing, get those muscles strong, and then keep your model full. I know that.
No. It's perfect
Yeah.
because it's literally the conversation we had yesterday. So we have a plan for next year as we transition out of more heavy on the commercial side on the residential install. So the number of revenue floor that we need for residential install, and if we had a bunch of commercial, is two totally different things. And so the baseline for a great year, if we were doing a ton of commercial for this, it's not even in the same universe. And a lot of people don't understand that most revenue is not built equally. And one of the things that I didn't realize is that the service side of your business, I didn't realize when I was getting into this, is your best organic lead for high ticket items.
Yep.
And so the more service calls that you can run, yeah, it might only be $100, $300, $400 ticket, but doing those 4 times a day, 5 times a week, 5 service guys are going to yield you, this, and you're not paying Google for leads. And that's what I think a lot of people lose sight of.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, but that really is one of the giant keys is focusing on that model. Or, I mean, on the other hand, right, if you're a commercial business, focus on commercial, right? You don't need to put all this money into Google. You don't need to do this. Just go do commercial, but that's going to require a different capacity schedule than what you need in residential. And so, understanding your business model, understanding the pitfalls of your business model, and then executing on it. And to kind of prove how much this means to me, we shut down a $500,000 a year plumbing install on like remodels division. We fired 2 guys. We shut that whole division down because it was messing with our capacity for our residential plumbing service. And it's taken, I mean, the hit was hard, right? There's a capital hit that happens when you do something like that, just because, one, you have jobs that are coming in that you can't run, and 2, you need to kind of change the mentality of the whole team so that they're service sales guys and then install guys, and then making them fit into those positions. But we did it, and we're just coming out the upswing of that. And now, every day we're selling tankless water heater, another water heater, this. Where if we and that the installers are installing $6,000 to $8,000 a day, whereas if they're doing remodel work, they're doing maybe 1,000. After you kind of divvy that up across the board, 1,000 to 1,200, and it's just not the same. And so we were shooting ourselves in the foot in an opportunity by running remodel work when we shouldn't have been running remodel work. And then now that we're doing service properly, we're getting great results.
I love that. And so once again, if they want to track you down, they want to find you, how would they do that?
Yeah. So the HVAC Jack on Twitter is really the only spot that I'm on social media, and very minimal, but I'm active most of the time. If you send me a message, I usually write back. And then ownedandoperated.com, we host a podcast where we talk about this stuff. So I appreciate it, Austin. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you, man. No, if you're a trade entrepreneur or a business owner and you're not listening to Owned and Operated, I don't know what you're doing. And I'm not saying that because he's on here. Well, John, we could take him or leave him, but Jack makes the podcast. No, I'm just messing with John. He's always giving me shit about don't come to his area.
I bet.
No, like literally all the owners and the CEO and the training specialists, we all listen and we talk about it. And
there's lots of juice we give away. I mean, we talk about it on there a lot. We open the books, which is really fun.
Yeah.
So
1,000%. It's so good. Guys, if you got some some value from this episode, send it to a friend, share it around. We'll see you next time. Folks, if you made it to the end of the episode, I'm sure you found some value with what you're listening to. If you could send this to a friend, rate us and review us, share us around. The more that you share us, the more that we can share content with you. Thank you all so much for your time and listening, and we'll see you next time.